What would you like the power to do? Bank of America.
How's everybody doing? You should be really excited because you're inside here where it's warm and not outside.
Say it, Chuck. Absolutely say it. Exactly right.
Well, it is an absolute pleasure to be able to be a part of this conversation with a man who has very much been in the center of everything since Mayor Mary Sheffield got elected as the next mayor of this great city. That indeed garnered all the attention and was probably the hottest job in town right now. But once it was established that she was going to be the next mayor, attention turned to this gentleman to my left because he got picked to lead this transition. So Butch, I want to start from that vantage point. As you reflect back on those very busy weeks between election night and when the mayor was sworn in, what stands out most to you that has really stuck with you, that has been important to this transition?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Sandy Barua and the great people at the Detroit Regional Chamber for another fantastic conference, and look at the incredible attendance here at this beautiful facility. I just am awed by the job that they continue to do year in and year out in shaping what we should be doing from a policy and practical perspective here in the city. So what Mayor Sheffield just said is what our focus is: leadership and partnership. You know, she won 77% of the vote in the general election.
A landslide.
77%. I don't know that can ever be replicated. And that, if there's nothing else, is a mandate to implement her vision. And so to me, that jumped off the charts when we first talked about a transition. What does that look like? And each one has to be different based on who the candidate is, who's been elected and is about to take office. And of course, you drink out of a fire hose, starting on election night, on the general election night of the 4th of November 4, and then on the 5th, Katie barred the door. So you have not quite 8 weeks in which to put together a blueprint for a very smooth transition from the Duggan administration to the Sheffield administration. And there cannot be a foot out of place. So no pressure, but she started out on a very strong foot. I guess what stands out more than anything else is that there wasn't any fighting. You have 18 policy committees, 50 co-chairs of the most committed leaders in the city of Detroit, grassroots activists to the chairman of Huntington Bank, people who've worked on community violence initiatives to the vice chair of the Pistons, all working together to outline what are the strategic ways in which we can give plans and to put them in effect with these action plans on behalf of the mayor.
As I watched it from my perch, from a media standpoint, and then I think as average people watched it, because I was out and about and people were constantly saying, okay, how's this transition going to go? Is it going to be smooth going from Mayor Mike Duggan to Mayor-elect Sheffield? The one thing that people noticed was that it appeared to be very people-driven.
It was.
That it wasn't just a bunch of leaders in the room saying this is where we're going next from the highest levels, that average people, and when I say average people, I say in a way that just elected people who may not hold a significant position other than they were voters and they live in this neighborhood and they've lived in the city for a long time, were involved in the process. As you formed all of this, why was that important to you, and what did you hope would be the end product of that?
It was very intentional. From the very beginning, Mayor Sheffield indicated that she wanted this to be not just smooth, as we indicated, but the most community-driven transition in Detroit's history. As far as I've been around, so have you. I don't know that there's ever been a transition like this in the city. I don't know that there's ever been one like this in the United States. I have paid very close attention to what's going on in New York City and New Orleans, which have new mayors right now, and other places. Nobody is doing what we did here in Detroit. To give you a perspective, there were 400 members of the New York City transition team. Detroit had 200. We had 280 with a population of 645,000 versus a population of 9.5 million in New York City. That tells you the level of enthusiasm. And when you say ordinary individuals at the table, that is absolutely the case. Starting with the mayor's initial decision to host the transition in the neighborhoods. You'll notice the offices were not here downtown. It was at Marygrove College, or Marygrove Conservancy as it's known now. That was important. So convenient parking. People could come in, weigh in on these various decisions. That's critical. And so when we gave the charge to these committees to come up with these action plans on or before December 31, that not only happened, but it happened with a kind of input from the community that we've never seen. People said, I can't believe it. We have a community survey out now, which has never been done as far as a transition.
What kind of numbers have you seen from this community survey?
Well, I checked this morning, and that survey opened on January 9. It will close March 11th. And we're targeting 5,600 responses from the community. You can either respond online at the Rise Higher Detroit website, or we're actually going into the field as well with personnel. We're coming to a grocery store near you. And so, we're not just saying go online, we're actually meeting people where they are. They're coming, and the numbers this morning were out of about a 5,300 sample size that we're looking for. We had 3,000 responses in the first week.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. You gather all these people from all walks of life. How much of it was listening to what people were saying to you? And then if you were listening and listening intently, which I'm sure you were, what are you going to do with all that? 99%
was listening. I mean, we can certainly provide the framework. Okay, so the framework is, what is it that we're going to be looking at? So what are these 18 separate committees that you stay up at night saying, have we gotten it right? So innovation and workforce and economic development and education, vibrant neighborhoods and transit mobility and these kinds of things. So you give a framework, but the people want to fill in that framework and have never been at the table before like this. So that was exciting, but you asked the right question in terms of, have we seen it before? No, we haven't seen it. 2, people are excited to give it. 3, are we creating a new paradigm, which I hope we are, where people in the neighborhoods in real time can influence policy decisions at City Hall? That's the goal. The goal is to make we're a republic, right? We end up selecting through elections the people that represent us in office, and we ask them to represent us. This is a little bit different. This says, I want to be at the table with those elected officials in order to put in place these policy prescriptions so that we can go after core city services and deliver them in a way that our citizens expect. So this is something new.
You've been around politics a long time. So it sounds to me as though what you sat down to do was build a structure that didn't just work for you for the first 100 days, which those of us in the media like to be able to use that as a benchmark at the end of the 100 days and say, how is the Sheffield administration doing? But that you're building a structure so that it lasts her, hopefully, throughout her first term and maybe beyond that the building blocks are there to have a successful administration and therefore a successful city.
That is exactly how I designed it on her behalf, so that I asked the participants to look at it through 3 lenses. The first one is I call MV, Mary Vision. You know, what is our mayor been saying out there on the campaign trail?
People will be walking around now talking about Mary Vision.
I
in
got
Detroit.
her permission to use that term, so she said it's okay. So Mary, what has she been saying? And I asked them, familiarize yourself with that. 2, what are national best practices? Okay, so we, are doing well, for example, on certain things like emergency response time. Where it's 7 minutes and 33 seconds as of last week for when an EMS truck will come to the house. Well, that was at 20 minutes before. And that's unacceptable because 8 minutes is when tissue dies. So we have to be there in that realm. Well, how do we make sure we're giving our EMS and emergency providers the kinds of tools and resources that they need, and how are we beating the practices that are being used in Boston and Philadelphia and Chicago and New York? So we asked them to, A, marry vision, B, what are national best practices, C, take your own personal experiences and then work them into these policy recommendations that you as committee members and that as members of the community will fuse together to give us these, this direction.
Attorney Hollowell, how does this help you when it comes time for Mayor Sheffield to have to deal with those big issues that come around the corner that no one saw coming, but you know that they're coming, whether it's coming from Lansing and policies there, or it's coming from Washington and policies there, or it's just one of those things where you look up and it's like, holy smokes, in the midst of all that's going on right now, my city is now the center of attention, not just for this state, but the world is watching.
Very true. Mayor Sheffield is the center right now at the U.S. Conference of Mayors for exactly that reason. You can't always predict, in government or in business or any other, major, what's going to come around the corner. You hope that you have enough experience to know something is going to be coming around the corner. In the end, what it is, you got to know who you are. So you can set up a structure. You can have the very best people. Transitions are also about getting the people around you that you're going to need in order to carry out these policy prescriptions. But in the end, as my grandmother would say, you got to cogitate your belly button. You got to know, who you are, or else the winds of change that come day in and day out, 24/7, will buffet you in a different direction. But if you know who you are, which Mayor Sheffield does, you're going to be okay.
Let me ask you a question. I'm going to turn this inward a little bit, especially for people in the audience who might not be from this area and may not know much about your background. I've heard people say the only person that could have pulled this off as smoothly as it happened was Attorney Melvin Butch Hollowell.
I like hearing that.
Because
Say that again. I don't know if they heard that.
You didn't pay me to say that. But I want to take you back a little bit. You were a mentee of the late federal judge Damon J. Keith.
He's second father.
Too many people considered a legend in judicial circles and in this town. Someone who was comfortable in the corporate suites, but also on the streets. You also were corporate attorney for the Detroit branch NAACP, which is the largest NAACP locally in the nation, and as like Reverend Anthony likes to say, the biggest and the baddest NAACP in the country.
Biggest, the baddest, oldest, and the boldest.
Oldest and the boldest, all right. But I say this to say, what did you learn from those past experiences that prepared you to hit the ground running and make sure that this was successful? And then what's the example for that next person coming along who has to do something similar for this city or any other city?
Boy, such a good question. I made mistakes, as we all do in various earlier jobs. I like to think I gave it my best in various previous roles. But in each of those previous roles, what I think you hope is that you can learn from maybe you fell into a pothole here on this legislation that should have been introduced here, there, or I fell down on that, or hopefully you take all of those things that were part of what you were taught from Damon Keith and other mentors that I've had over the years, and try to say, I don't want to do that again. So let's make sure we move in that direction. So that, to me, that's experience. You're also seeing from Mayor Sheffield, she's 38, but she has experience, let me tell you. And you can see that experience coming out day in and day out with what we're dealing with here with the transition. It will end on April 11, technically, when there is the community survey along with the recommendations of the policy committees for the 2 or 3 recommendations that get actionable at the for the first 100 days. But going beyond that, like you said, I've asked them first 100 days, first year in office, first term in office, and then that sets a nice foundation for what's next.
What do you see as the future for this city and this mayor and her administration, along with the Detroit City Council, because it is a partnership.
Sure.
And one without the other does not work. And we've had great success during the Duggan administration of watching these two bodies have their arguments from time to time behind closed doors, but then come out with a united front, and people are pleased and concentrated on that. What do you see as the very next step in the long-term future of all this?
We have an outstanding city council, outstanding. And let me say something, as the former chief lawyer for the city, having my responsibility being to give legal advice to the mayor and the city council and all of the, at this point, I think we have 21 city departments and department heads, police department, et cetera. There's gonna be disagreements. There should be disagreements. That's their job. They got elected to do that. The issue is, though, making sure that we're delivering in the end, after all the smoke is there, and there should be some smoke, having a partnership so that we can deliver on making sure that buses are showing up within 5 minutes of the published schedule. That's called on time. We need to make sure that our police officers are continuing to do the great job that they're doing so that we can continue to see a 60-year decline in our crime rates. We need to make sure that we are working together to create a robust educational system so we can have good trained workers for our jobs that we're creating. So all of that goes into the mixture. But what I will say is this, more than anything, Chuck, I cannot believe this, I mean, I guess you'd say kinetic level of energy in this city, borne out by the 77% turnout, but for this. People want it. They're jumping at it as with both feet. I love that. I just love it, and I'm proud of where we've gone.
Final question. We've got 2 minutes and 11 seconds left.
Okay.
Chamber is very good
Yes.
at keeping us organized.
And the hook comes out from the side.
Absolutely. They're very good at that. We sit here in Hudson's Detroit, the vision of Dan Gilbert and his team in this new edifice in our city, and new corporate stamp mark on Woodward Avenue. What are you hearing from the C-suites and from the corporate people and the money people and the people that are heavily invested in making sure that this city continues to move forward?
Good question, again. I have to say that particularly the foundations, when I reached out to them, they were reaching out to me at the same time. I think we have now up to 15 foundations that have come on board to support Mayor Sheffield. We wanted to make sure that this transition had zero public dollars, so no taxpayer dollars were used, no campaign dollars were used. The foundation set up a fund that is housed in the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan under the jurisdiction of Nicole Sherrod-Freeman and
Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan.
Yes, and Donald Renscher, Hudson Weber, and they have been working hand in glove with me, in order to make sure that they supported what we need, from a chief talent officer to making sure we had the right resources, and so what I'm hearing from them is all good. We've been meeting regularly. That's a good thing. With regard to the C-suites, yeah, I mean, you have to touch base with everybody, and nothing but enthusiasm. Nothing but everybody. People have their own seasons. Mayor Duggan was this past 12 years. You can't imagine a more perfect mayor for that period of time. Mary Sheffield is the perfect mayor for right now in the future. And when I say seasons, they have their own rhythm. We're in a good rhythm right now. The citizens of this city are looking forward to her leadership, and it's an exciting time in the city of Detroit.
Attorney Melvin Butch Hollowell, the transition chairman of the Rising Higher, thank you so much. I know you haven't gotten hardly any sleep since you were appointed in that position. Hopefully, you can go home to your wife pretty soon and say, they're going to let us go on vacation for a few days.
Amy, did you hear that?
I'm working on your behalf.
He said it.
Because I know what my wife would be
Yes.
saying the same thing. Thank you so much for your commitment to this city. And thank you.